Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. What's up, you guys? It's Michelle here. Welcome to another episode of Alive and Well. So glad you're tuning in today because this conversation, I think it's going to help you name something that may have been feeling off for a while, even if you couldn't quite put your finger on it. And we're going to talk about burnout, but not in the way that you're used to hearing about it. Because I think when at least most of the people that I work with, when they picture burnout, you kind of imagine someone totally falling apart, right? Just like crying in the shower or in, 5-day-old pajamas, unable to get out of bed, maybe even, something extreme like quitting their job and just like burning it all down, right? Walking away from it all. But in my work with high achieving, high capacity women who are also raising children, burnout often looks so different. It actually looks like showing up every day. It actually looks like holding it all together. It actually looks like getting that to-do list done and looking composed on the outside, and then somehow still feeling like it's all falling apart on the inside. And that's what I call functional burnout. And more often than not, it's really rooted in nervous system dysregulation. So in today's episode, I want to dive into 3 subtle signs that your burnout might not be a time management issue. It might not be a lack of motivation or discipline issue, but actually a nervous system that's stuck in a stress response, that's stuck in survival mode. So let's jump right in. Sign number 1 that your nervous system might be burned out is that you are always on, quote unquote on, right? In air quotes, but you're rarely present. And I want to start with this one because I see this all the time, especially in those of you who are juggling a lot, right? You're the one who gets things done. You're the one people rely on. You're always moving, always scanning, always managing, always planning. You're always one step ahead. But even in the moments that should feel restful, right? When you finally made dinner and the day is winding down and you're sitting down with your family to eat, or maybe, on a Saturday morning when you take your kids to the park and you're watching them play, or maybe in the evening, right? The day is done. The kitchen's actually clean. Like you did it. Everyone's sleeping and you're lying in bed at night and you are exhausted, but your brain won't shut off, right? Maybe you just like mentally rehearse tomorrow's schedule. You're always preemptively solving problems, or you're tracking what needs to get done and who needs what from you next. Raise your hand because I can relate to all of this. Even when you're in the room, you don't feel with the people in it. And it's a sign that your system might be in the state of sympathetic dominance, what we commonly call fight or flight. And it's a state of hypervigilance. It doesn't always look panicked, right? It doesn't always look paranoid. Sometimes it just looks like being overly productive or highly efficient or polished, right? You're a neat freak or everything like has to be a certain way. We call ourselves type A. But what's happening underneath all of that is that our nervous system isn't registering safety. So there's a part of our brain, the alarm center in our brain, our amygdala, that acts like a smoke detector. And when it's overly sensitized, it can kind of be always beeping and keeping us in this low grade state of activation all the time. So we can never truly feel present and relax. And it's why even the small things, you guys, running, delay, right? A shift in plans, an unexpected text, a miscommunication, small things that we know logically we should be able to pivot and adjust and adapt and handle. All of a sudden, those feel like a big deal. And it's not that we're overreacting because we're ill-equipped or we're being dramatic. We're overreacting, or at least our reaction doesn't feel proportionate to what we're experiencing because our nervous system hasn't gotten the signal like all clear, everything's okay. So we're always on, but that's not sustainable because underneath that sense of like always being ready, always having all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, right? In that illusion of control is a body that's always bracing. And when our body's always bracing, right? Ready for what's next, planning ahead, wanting to be present with our kids, but worrying about what we've got to do on Monday morning as soon as we get to the office. That's low grade stress. That's releasing hormones that are constantly running through your body. And that there's a load on that, right? There's an allostatic load, we call it. There's an impact of that chronic stress, a cumulative wear and tear on your body, and it's going to have an impact. So that's sign number one, is that you are always quote unquote on, but you rarely feel present. The second hidden sign of nervous system burnout, and I think a lot of women miss this one too, is that you're doing more. You actually are quite productive. You get a lot done. Like if people watched you all day long, they'd be like, dang, that girl gets stuff done. But you're getting stuff done, but you're not really feeling much of anything. Nothing really lands anymore. Like you used to get really excited about meeting certain goals or milestones, or you used to get that dopamine hit from the progress. You used to enjoy your own success, but maybe now it's just like you're going through the motions. Everything just feels sort of flat and disconnected. You're checking the boxes, but then on the inside, it's like, why am I even doing this, right? This isn't lighting me up like it used to. And that's a sign that your nervous system's likely shifting into what we call a dorsal vagal shutdown, dorsal vagal collapse. It's a freeze response. It's the freeze end of the spectrum. And it's part of our parasympathetic branch of our nervous system, but it's not the restful kind, right? It's like instead of like tapping on the brakes when we see a stop sign approaching, if we're driving our car, this is more like slamming on the brakes, right? It's the survival kind. And this dorsal state, it can show up in so many different ways. So maybe if you're stuck in this state of your nervous system, you might just feel emotionally flat. Like, yeah, maybe I don't cry and get angry a lot, but I also don't really feel that like bubbly joy that I used to feel on the inside, right? I just kind of feel detached from my people or detached from my work or my purpose or what have you. It might even feel like you're moving through a fog, right? You just feel kind of stuck. It's hard to get going. Momentum feels like it's really hard to build. You're just kind of losing interest in things that you used to love. Maybe you used to love to bake, or maybe you used to love to garden, or maybe you used to love to play an instrument or something. And none of that really sounds interesting to you anymore. And your internal dialogue can be really harsh. It can be really harsh. Our inner critic can be super hard on us when we're stuck in this phase, in this nervous system state, because it's really easy to look at it from the outside and for our inner critic to be like calling us lazy or unmotivated or any variation on that theme, when really we're just depleted, right? We're depleted. And what's happening here is that your system's just been under stress for so long, been under pressure for so long, that your nervous system has decided that the best way to protect you is to just go into conservation mode, conserve energy, right? Shut it down, slow it down. So I want to just pause here and say, if this is you, if this is resonating, if you feel like you're getting the things done, but you're just not feeling much of anything, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're unmotivated. This is what we call a brilliant adaptive nervous system. And that's what it does when it doesn't feel safe. So it doesn't mean that you don't care, right? It doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you've been in go, go, go mode for too long. And your body is just finally pulling that emergency brake. And as you learn to regulate your nervous system, you can shift out of this state. That's the encouraging thing. That's what I want you to leave with today. You're not stuck in any of these. Once you learn tools to help bring safety and regulation to your body, you can get out of this dorsal vagal shutdown and come back to a place where your body feels safe. And then you have the ability to move in such a different way through your life and honestly start to feel more. That bubbly joy, it's still in there. It's just being suppressed, and we can get it. We can have access to that again when we learn to regulate our nervous system. And then the third sign I want to talk about, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, I certainly can, is that when my nervous system is not in a healthy place and I'm trending toward burnout, I catch it so much faster than I used to, right? I haven't had a major burnout in 7 or 8 years. But when I notice this particular sign, that's a red flag to me. And it's this: you're overreacting to things that you logically know aren't a big deal, right? You find yourself reacting way more strongly than you even in your own head, you're like, wow, I know that this is ridiculous. Like, I know that I'm overreacting. I know logically that this doesn't feel like this isn't as big of a thing as I'm making it seem. But I just can't really help it, right? Someone asks me a question and I snap, or my husband forgets something and I just kind of shut down. That's it. That was the final straw today. Or my child spills something and it just feels like, oh my gosh, the day is shot. Like I cannot, my entire day just unraveled. And part of us knows it's actually not that serious, but our body doesn't know that. And our body responds like it is. And this is where I talk about something called our window of tolerance. This is where that's so important. And our window of tolerance, we all have one, and it fluctuates minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. But our window of tolerance is basically the range of stress that our nervous system can handle without it sending us into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? How much stress can you handle? How much of things going wrong or changing or people asking things of you or disappointing you or frustrating you or, all the things. How much of that can you handle before your nervous system goes beyond the edges of its capacity and it either goes into fight or flight or goes into freeze mode like we were just talking about, or just starts to fawn and people please and completely self-abandon? When we are regulated, we can handle so much. You guys have probably had days like this, right? You wake up in the morning, you're feeling great, right? You've slept well, you have a great breakfast, and things happen. Life keeps on lifing, right? Maybe you're late leaving the house and your kid can't find his shoes, and something spills in the car, and then you get cut off in traffic, and then you get to finally make it to the office, and something happens and an email comes through and you're disappointed about something, or someone dropped the ball and you have to handle it. And you get to the end of the day and you're like, wow, I held so much today and I flipping crushed it, right? I rode life's waves today and I did not get swept under or knocked over. When we're regulated, our window of tolerance is really wide. When we're resourcing ourselves, our window of tolerance is really wide. Our bandwidth grows when we're regulated. When we're not, our window of tolerance shrinks. It becomes super narrow. And that happens from a lot of things that cause nervous system dysregulation. It comes from chronic stress, shrink your window of tolerance. Experiencing trauma that you have not processed and healed, shrink your window of tolerance. Suppressing and repressing emotions, even the smallest ones that you're so quick to just shove back down, annoyance, frustration, disappointment, sadness, anger, what have you, shrinks your window of tolerance. And when our window of tolerance is tiny, even the smallest little ripple feels overwhelming. Everything throws us beyond the edges of our capacity. Our bandwidth is so small. And you can probably relate to days like that too, right? The days when everything goes wrong and you just handle it And then the days where it's one tiny little thing and you just lose it. And that's why things that wouldn't normally bother us suddenly feel really hard to handle, right? Really overwhelming. And again, it's not a lack of discipline or motivation or self-control or what have you. It's actually your nervous system does not physically have the capacity to regulate through what you're experiencing in any given moment. And these are just adaptations, right? So if you've heard yourself, noticed yourself, have awareness of yourself in any of these 3 signs, right? You're always on, but it's hard to be present. You're doing all the things, but you're not feeling much of anything, or you're overreacting to things that you know aren't that big of a deal. I want you to really take this in, that they're not flaws. These are nervous system adaptations. They're ways your nervous system has tried to protect you, is trying to protect you. It's learning how to help you survive. And the tools that helped you survive these adaptations aren't always the tools that help you thrive. And it's why burnout recovery, it's not just about taking a nap. It's not about taking a long weekend, right? It's not about finding quote unquote work-life balance. It's about truly learning regulation, giving your nervous system a new map, new information, letting your body know, hey, it's okay to come down. And this is exactly where we start inside my return framework. The first phase is releasing. That's the first R in return, releasing survival stress. Because until that tension leaves the body, we're really not available for the rest of the healing journey. So if any of this landed for you guys today, this conversation is resonating, any of these signs felt familiar, I want to invite you to my free live workshop, From On Edge to At Ease. I'm going to go live on Zoom with you on Tuesday, August 26th. It's going to be a really powerful hour together. I'm going to teach you and walk you through in real time nervous system based tools to help you start shifting out of survival mode. I want you guys to experience this, not just in theory, not just in gathering more information, but actually having the experience of it in real time. And we'll walk through some of these simple somatic practices that I teach. And then you'll leave not only with clarity, but I think you'll leave with an expanded bandwidth. You'll leave with more capacity and a felt sense of what it's actually feeling like to be at ease. So there's a link in the show notes to go ahead and save your spot, or you can go to michellegrosser.com/workshop, register there. You'll get all the details, add it to your calendar. I would love to see you there because you're already doing so much. I know you, and I know that about you, and your nervous system has been working overtime to protect you. So what you need now is actually something different. The beautiful thing is safety can be rebuilt. You can return to regulation. You can return to presence. You can return to yourself. All right. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I'll see you next time.